Sean and to his family. I'd like to just say thanks to Stevie Hines and doing my secretarial areas of emails and back and forth, and my Sergeant at Arms, George.
It's a great honor and a pleasure to be with all of you today to pay tribute to Mr. Arthur Filete, who fought for the freedom of France and the freedom of Europe during World War II. Mr. Filete, your story is the ultimate example of bravery and courage. You entered the US Navy when you were just 18 years old. 18 years old. You fought thousands of miles away from your family and your friends to liberate my country, France, and Europe from the terror of the Nazi regime. American soldiers such as yourself risked their lives to save our life and to save our country. You saved millions of lives, you saved our country, France, you saved our values and our independence. And for that, we will be eternally grateful. The French government and the French people admire your courage and your sacrifice, and the sacrifice of your fallen companions. We owe you our freedom. We will never forget. To express France's gratitude, and on behalf of the French President, I will bestow upon you the insignia of the Knights of the National Order of the Legion of Honor. The Legion of Honor, or in French, the Légion d'honneur, is the French Republic's highest honorary distinction. It was created by Emperor Napoleon in 1802 to recognize men and women who have accomplished, like you, exceptional deeds for France and for its people. It is a privilege and an honor today to add you to the list of these prestigious individuals. Today's ceremony takes place in the special context of the COVID-19 crisis. And I thank everybody, especially the American Legion, for the organization and to have made it possible while respecting all the health guidelines, the distancing, and to keep a limited format. Thank you for that. I know this is never easy to organize such a ceremony in such circumstances. Before I proceed to the award, let me tell you a little bit more about the great man that we have before us. Mr. Arthur Filete, you enlisted in the US Navy. As I said, just barely after finished high school at the young age of 18 years old. You were called to active duty just a few months later. After you entered the army, you went to training and studied to become a diesel mechanic. Once you graduated, you were assigned to the USS Jacob Jones, a US Navy destroyer escort. The USS Jacob Jones provided escort services to US Navy convoys carrying troops and war supplies to the Allied forces in Europe to protect them from submarine attacks. As a Navy destroyer escort, the USS Jacob Jones needed to be able to detect, pursue, and attack enemy submarines. Around the time when Germany announced its surrender, on May 7th, 1945, after years of terror, occupation, and bloodshed, you served in 2 Atlantic crossings. In May 1945, you escorted French ships in French waters near Le Havre and Cherbourg. You then escorted ships that were transferring army personnel back to the US in September. By escorting these US ships from the US to Europe and back, you and the US Jacob Jones crew provided essential protection, support, and supplies to the Allied efforts. You played an important role in the liberation of France and Europe from German occupation and made possible for the safe return of Allied forces after the hostilities were over. While on the US Jacob Jones, you and the crew were in constant danger of submarines attacks. Although Germany recalled many of its submarines after it surrendered, not all of the war commanders responded right away. The danger of being torpedoed remained very real until every one of the German submarines finally obeyed to the order to return to their base. Luckily for you, Mr. Filete, you did not experience any serious sea incident. After the war was officially over, you continued to serve aboard the USS Jacob, bringing back troops and supplies across the Atlantic. You were then stationed in the Pacific, in Guam, where you spent the last 8 months of your active service before you returned to the US in June 1966. After returning to the US, you worked for the Grumman Aircraft Engineering Corps for 40 years.
I feel humbled and honored at the same time. When I joined the Navy, this was never even the foggiest thought in my life that 70 plus years later, I would be honored by the French government and inducted into the Legion of Honor. I just want to say that I feel that I'm part of history, and the Consul General indicated that our relationship goes back to the creation of our country, the Revolutionary War. The French were involved in supporting us to become independent from England, and it has so far been successful. We've enjoyed our relationship through the years, and for whatever small part I played in that relationship, I feel especially honored and privileged to have been able to do the small things that I did. And it just boggles my mind to think that for what I thought was just my duty to volunteer for, to do this job, to win the war, whatever my contribution was, never thought it would end in a celebration such as this. I've been very happy and pleased with my life up to this point. I hope it continues at least for a few more years. I want to click off that 100, and maybe we can have another celebration. So mark it on your calendar, guys. We'll have another party. I think after I was honored, notified of the honor coming to me, I said, I feel like now I'm part of French-American history, noted in France, in Paris, and noted here in the United States. And just continuing the relationship that was started, and the exchange of information, the exchange of blood and tears during the 2 world wars. I'm here and honored to be part of all of that. I recognize things that France has done for us through the years, and I'm pleased to say thank you on behalf of the people of the country. And I say thank you on behalf of the crew of the USS Jacob Jones, who deserve the same privileges and honors that I have received here today. They were with me in the same situation. Unfortunately, most of them have passed on, and I know that you don't award this after the death of a person, you can't do it posthumously. But on behalf of those crew members that served with me, I accept this honor. I pass it on to them as well. I want to say thank you to the American Legion, a place where I've given many years of service. They've offered all the amenities that you're about to take part of, and it's just overwhelms me. But what I thought was a relatively insignificant role in the world.